Gladiators, heroes of Rome. The crowd roars, the ground shakes. All eyes are on the arena as two warriors step into the blood-soaked sands, knowing only one may walk away. This was no ordinary fight. It was theatre, power, and survival, a spectacle that defined the glory and brutality of ancient Rome. But gladiators weren't just fighters. They were symbols of courage and rebellion, of fame and exploitation. They weren't merely victims of Rome's bloodlust. They were its legends. Their stories transcend time, inviting us into a world where life and death were entertainment, and survival meant immortality. The origins of gladiators weren't rooted in grandeur, but in mourning. Imagine this: a noble Etruscan lies dead, his family desperate to honor his spirit and please the gods. Two warriors are brought forth to fight, a brutal, sacred farewell to the deceased. But the Romans, they saw potential. What was once a private ritual became a public spectacle, a tool to wield power. In 264 BCE, Rome hosted its first recorded gladiatorial games, 6 fighters battling at a funeral. The crowd was spellbound. Politicians quickly realized these games could distract the masses, flaunt wealth, and assert dominance. And so, a tradition was born. Gladiators were no longer just combatants. They were pawns in Rome's pursuit of control, tools to satisfy its growing appetite for blood and spectacle. When you think of gladiators, do you picture shackled slaves? That's only part of the story. True, many were prisoners of war, condemned criminals, or enslaved people forced into the arena. But some chose this life. Why would anyone volunteer to fight to the death? For some, it was desperation, an escape from starvation or debt. For others, it was ambition, the allure of fame, fortune, and glory. These free men, called auctorati, signed contracts that turned them into gladiators, risking their freedom for a shot at immortality. But life as a gladiator wasn't just about fighting, it was about training. At gladiator schools, recruits endured brutal routines, honing their bodies into weapons. They weren't just warriors, they were athletes and performers, masters of strategy and showmanship. Every strike, every dodge, every dramatic pause was designed to captivate the crowd. The arena was more than a battlefield, it was a stage. Gladiators weren't just fighters, they were characters. Each one represented a distinct style, turning every fight into a clash of identities. Picture the Murmillo, a heavily armored juggernaut, his helmet crowned with a fish-like crest, wielding a gladius and shield. Now imagine his opponent, the Retiarius, a swift, lightly armored fighter armed with a trident and net, dancing circles around his lumbering foe. These matchups were no accident. Promoters carefully orchestrated fights to create maximum drama, brute strength versus agility, heavily armed versus nearly defenseless. The audience loved the tension, the uncertainty. Would the nimble underdog prevail, or would the armored titan crush his opponent? This wasn't just combat, it was art. The Colosseum was more than a stadium, it was Rome's beating heart. Completed in 80 CE, it could hold 50,000 spectators, each one hungry for blood and spectacle. Beneath its sands lay a hidden world, the Hypogeum, a maze of tunnels where gladiators and animals waited for their turn to face destiny. And the events? They were grand productions. Picture this. The day begins with exotic animal hunts, lions and tigers battling hunters for survival. By midday, criminals are executed in creative, often gruesome ways, but the real stars, the gladiators, take the stage in the afternoon. The fights weren't just battles. They were stories, complete with heroes, villains, and breathtaking twists. Sometimes the arena even flooded for mock naval battles. Rome spared no expense to keep the crowd on the edge of their seats. For gladiators, the arena was a double-edged sword. Death was a constant risk, but it wasn't always the outcome. These fighters were valuable, and their owners weren't eager to see them killed without good reason. The ultimate decision often lay in the hands of the crowd. Did they cheer for mercy or bay for blood? The famous thumbs down gesture. Historians now believe it's a myth. In reality, the crowd's signals were far more complex, and their power immense. For the victorious, the rewards were sweet. Gold, glory, and sometimes even freedom awaited those who survived. The greatest honor. The rudis, a wooden sword symbolizing their release from servitude. But even free, a legendary gladiator's fame could transcend the sands of the arena. Gladiators weren't just entertainers, they were revolutionaries. No story captures this better than that of Spartacus, the most famous gladiator of all. In 73 BCE, he led a rebellion of enslaved people that shook the Roman Republic to its core. Though ultimately defeated, his legacy endures as a symbol of resistance against tyranny. And while male gladiators dominated the arena, female gladiators, gladiatrices, also fought, defying conventions and risking it all for the crowd's approval. Though rare, their presence added yet another layer of intrigue to Rome's bloody spectacle. By the 4th century CE, the tides had turned. As Christianity spread, the gladiatorial games faced growing condemnation. They were seen as barbaric, a stain on Roman morality. Emperor Constantine officially banned the games in 325 CE, but their echoes lingered for decades, fading into history. Today, the Colosseum stands as a haunting reminder of Rome's hunger for power and spectacle. The gladiators, long gone, remain immortalized as symbols of courage, brutality, and ambition. They were warriors in chains, entertainers in peril, and legends forged in blood. As you walk through the ruins, listen closely. Can you hear it? The roar of the crowd, the clash of steel, and the defiant cry of a fighter who refuses to fall. This is the world of the gladiators, a world where glory was bought with blood, and immortality was won on the sands of the arena. If you've enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel.